delighted to be here on the platform today on Africa Tomorrow. I'm dialing in from Turkey, of all places. Kim, where are you?
I'm in Johannesburg.
Okay. Erwan?
Cape Town.
Cape Town. Is that Cape Town in the background?
Yes, it is. The waterfront in Cape Town from the Radisson office, in fact.
Wonderful. Okay, great. All right. Well, what are we going to do today? Well, first off, I was horrified at Matt's shirt first thing this morning. I mean, truly horrified. Many people said nice shirt because they didn't believe it. Now, what I'm doing is I'm in solidarity with the hospitality sector. So I've actually chosen to wear my chef's jacket.
Oh,
so
wow.
There you go. Can you see that? And not only that, you see that, it's got my name on it, and it's from the École Hôtelière de Lausanne, which they presented to me. So I'm in hospitality dress. I couldn't find my toque anywhere. I guess it probably got too small because of the size of my head these days, my ego. Not you. Okay. All right. So the real pipeline, what are we talking about? We're talking about my usual subject, which is the hotel chain development pipelines in Africa. And as usual this year, we did the survey, January, February, when everything was going swimmingly, people. Do you remember those wonderful days of January, February? So I'm going to show you some of the data from that, but I'm not going to take very long, because what is more interesting is to hear it from the horse's mouth. Now that's an expression, not an insult, Kim or Erwan or anybody else. Two developers, two of the guys that are hunting deals, or rather not hunting deals because you can't move from where you are. So that's the objective, is to find out more about really what's going to happen now and what they think about going to happen in the future. So let me throw some data at you. This usual boring old data that Trevor stands up every year, and here we go. What did we find at the beginning of this year when we asked 40-odd chains around the world, but all of them with a presence or an interest in Africa, to tell us about their development pipeline? So this is the information that they provided us with at that time. And when we collected that data, we were expecting to be climbing back up, climbing continually up what was a great growth hill.
I think we can discuss about what's been like for you in 2020. Kim, I think since Trevor is going to take it, let's discuss while we're waiting for him. So I understand that we're talking about what was the situation for us in 2020, and Trevor is back.
So did I miss anything? Did I miss anything? Is it over?
Lots, we're done. We're finished.
Right, well, I'm not going to share my screen. I'm not going to show you any of my slides. I've decided not to. Right, so having looked at all the statistics, Kim and Erwan, because you saw the slides before, didn't you? Sorry about the show, but we don't need it. January, February was when things were going swimmingly, weren't they? Everything was great. And everybody thought that 2020 was going to show more growth than 2019 showed. We had an increase on the 2018 pipeline, the 2019 pipeline, 3.7% increase. So, I mean, not bad, an increase and an increase. So what did you think, Kim, when the wheels fell off in March? What was your first reaction when the phones probably stopped ringing?
Well, I guess the first reaction also is for ourselves, right? I mean, being in the development team, or as all other teams as well, travel is essential to us to, to bring in business, to sign deals, to interact with our owners. And I think particularly in Africa, you still want those face-to-face meetings. And suddenly that comes to a grinding halt where you suddenly can't travel into your regions. So I think that obviously in the initial phases was quite challenging. So immediately the thoughts are, how do we adapt to the new situation? And I think it did take some time. I think everybody was a little bit in shock, trying to cope with sort of the new status quo, unknowingly how to actually cope with it. And, and then everyone started the Zoom meetings, or started figuring out with which virtual program to conduct meetings. And I think finally settled on their favorites. And I have to say, yeah, I mean, things did slow down in the first month or two, but currently we are seeing a lot more activity again. So I think people have kind of come to terms with the current situation, and are starting to pick up business again.
But I guess the main focus in the company was on the operational side, wasn't it? At
Yes.
that time? So did development had to take a bit of a back seat, I guess?
Well, I mean, not so much. I mean, it's not that development now starts helping out on operations. I mean, we do continue. But yes, I mean, from a global perspective, of course, all the focus was on operations, and having weekly discussions, or for some of the country GMs, daily discussions to help out and to sort out how to behave in the crisis, as best as you can. So yeah.
How about Radisson, Erwan? What happened when you fell off the cliff?
Oh, but since March, it's been a challenging time for everybody. So obviously, operation has been highly impacted, and also development and all departments in the company. Positively, cautiously, we're slowly seeing positive trends towards globally domestic demand bouncing back, and airport borders reopening, and hotel reopening. We're hoping to get back to 2019 results in the next 24 to 36 months. So it's quite going to be a long time process. So
are you talking operations or deal signing there? Because we heard an operation. Because we heard from Mark Willis earlier a similar projection, but of course nobody knows how the recovery is going to be, whether it's the dead cat bounce or the V or all the other letters of the alphabet.
We don't know. We expect cautiously, but we don't really know. We hope for, because there is no crystal ball to say what's going to happen in the future, and this pandemic never happened before, so there is no reference point.
Right, but
now.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
Okay, have you actually had any deals cancelled at Accor? Owners who said, "Oh, to hell."
Yes, deals have slowed down. So we've definitely seen that. Owners are prioritizing dealing and coping in the current crisis, because obviously most of them do have other businesses, and then focus on these. But again, like I said, it did slow down for a couple of months, but we haven't had any cancels. I mean, there's a delay, and for some there's a delay until next year, but there's not been a cancellation.
Okay, Erwan, anything?
Same. We didn't get any cancellation. There is delay, which for obvious reason, the pipeline materialization is being a bit delayed, either because, as you know, in some of the countries there is complete lockdown, where no action can happen on the ground, or sometimes opening the hotel at this time, even if it's being ready, is not a good time because the demand is not there. You don't want to open a hotel with no demand. So, but this year we're still getting a lot of traction. So this year we signed seven deals while being in COVID-19, and we're planning to open 4 hotels by the end of the year in Africa. Out of those 4, 3 will be conversions.
Right. Well, we're going to talk about conversions, but let me just challenge you on those 7, because it sounds like that's a tremendous number. Don't get me wrong, but they weren't new deals, were they? They were presumably deals that came to fruition in 2020, but had originated before. Or am I wrong?
No,
never wrong.
A deal on average takes 9 months in the best case scenario from the first point of contact to signing.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, the 7 deals that have been signed this year, most of them were originated maybe in 2019 and potentially earlier on. Very low. We have one project that went extremely fast, which was a Radisson collection Bamako, which was the conversion of an existing hotel from a competitive brand that we took over and branded. So this originated in 2020, signed in 2020, and will open in September 2020. But this is more of an exception case than the rule of thumb.
So surprising in Bamako, given all the political and civil problems in Mali these days. But has there been any change of how you operate? Okay, don't tell me about Zoom. I mean, we all know about the fact that we've had to be digital. But in terms of you can't go out hunting, as I said before. You can't go out meeting and greeting and doing face-to-face deals. So, are you? We heard earlier about how. In fact, I think it was Ellie Younis from Radisson said earlier about how Mancos had to change their business model. Are you finding ways to change your business model in the development department of your chains? Kim?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, personal relationships are very important in development. And, oftentimes it makes it far easier to create personal relationships when you're face-to-face or when you can have it over lunch. So I think now, obviously, these relationships take a lot longer to be established, where you may establish them in 1 or 2 meetings. It takes you now maybe 5, depending on the region, or more meetings via Zoom. So yeah, and obviously, creating new relationships before you would use platforms such as these, AIF, where you can meet face-to-face and, interact and have networking sessions. That now obviously you need to do virtually, or you reach out to your network trying to connect via other channels. So yeah, in that sense, it had to be changed, and how to find new leads. So prospecting has changed. The mannerism of prospecting. I don't know how often is feeding it.
Well, is the fact that you cannot, at the moment, and maybe for the foreseeable future, you just cannot meet your potential owners. Is that going to reduce the number of deals you do? Robert?
There is multiple answers to your question. First, Radisson remains 100% committed to the continent. So with the timing that is happening and the changes into the company, the objective remains the same. So we have reinforced our development team structure, while most of the competition have reduced their team structure. So we have now Ramzi Rankoussi that is leading our expansion as head of development for the entire continent of Africa. We have Daniel Trappler that has joined the team with a focus on supporting owner for funding solution, because it's one of the key challenge for hotel development regardless of the countries. Daniel was one of the specialists in capital market and hotel transaction dedicated for Africa for multiple consulting firms. So our strategy now is to have a flexible and localized approach to be close to our markets. So we're in the process of opening an office in Casablanca dedicated to our expansion in North Africa. Radisson priority is to have a cluster approach for critical mass strategy and synergies, with a focus on conversion, which is a topic we're going to discuss today, and city-scale growth in key capital cities, such as Cape Town, Lagos, or Nairobi. So what I'm trying to say is we're obviously adapting our business model with the scale of the continent and the fact that there is travel that is being required, but the reality of it is it's not going to come back anytime soon. And traveling is also seen as a cost. So we need to be very conscious of the fact that we need to spend more and more time with the owners in order to create a relationship, but also to create pipeline. Pipeline doesn't come by staying at your desk. Pipeline comes by being on the ground and discussing with key professional teams such as developers, promoters, architects, and so on. And
consultants,
consultants, yes, of course.
Primarily consultants. I mean, first stop.
Yeah. So as a segue into conversions, a discussion about conversions, one of the slides I was going to show you was the fact that there's very little change in the structure of the type of deal that's being signed. In other words, of 418 deals in the pipeline, only about 10% of them are franchise agreements. Yet we hear a lot about franchising. We hear a lot about franchising in Europe, obviously in the States. But what I'm not seeing in the numbers is an increase in franchises. And one would thought that it was a faster way to develop. And of course, when we talk in a little bit about independent hotels, many of them will be asking for franchise agreements. So, Kim, are you franchising? Well, I know you have one or two franchises around the town. Are you seeing more requests for franchises? What's going on?
No, I mean, we haven't seen too many requests from franchises yet. I think a lot of independent hotel owners are probably still looking at finding ways to deal with this on their own. I think it's too early to see this coming through. I think it's going to take another month or two when business picks up again, where you'll probably see more requests to international brands. At the moment, we're still seeing a lot of management agreements requests coming through. And I mean, yes, we do franchise. We've historically not franchised as much. We would possibly consider more franchises these days, but it's not a key strategy to our business model. I think for us, franchise, is a common thing as for most. We'd like to be in control of our brands, and I think in Sub-Saharan Africa at least, there's a limited opportunity to find third-party managers that have the expertise to manage an international brand. There's a few, so I'm not discounting that at all, but I think, we just want to keep control of our brands and our brand standards, which is one of the reasons why franchise hasn't really been part of our model in Africa.
Okay. Well, I think I know your answer, but hit me with it. Franchising.
So the business model of Radisson is mainly management agreements. We have a few exceptions of franchise. We recently signed a franchise agreement, in fact, in Indian Ocean, in Radisson Island, in Saint-Denis, taking over the old Meridian Hotel from Saint-Denis. And we did it with
where, sorry? And where was that?
In the capital city of Radisson Island in Indian Ocean.
Oh, okay.
Saint-Denis.
Right.
The owner already managed 5 hotels and is experienced for the last 15 years. So it was making sense, but it's very exceptional because 85% of the owner at Radisson Hotel in Africa are first-time owners. So they have no understanding and no experience of managing a hotel, meaning that if they are interested by a franchise agreement, they're gonna need to hire a third-party management company. And most of the third-party management company are fairly young and don't have a massive track record to manage a hotel in Africa, especially on the upscale, upper upscale, or even community. But we want to make sure that the management company or that will be in charge of the operation have a strong track record in order to protect our brand equity.
Okay. Now, it's always been the case that the chains have talked to independent hoteliers, unbranded hotels, about branding. Has that moved up your priority, Kim?
In what way do you mean?
Well, are you focusing more on converting, there's the word, converting independent unbranded hotels to an Accor brand now? Is that more of a priority for you?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity. Definitely, it's quicker access to market as well, and obviously, us having established our all-space hygiene protocol, can assist existing hotels in getting more recognition and more trust from clientele to drive more business into their hotels. So I do think there is an opportunity to partner with an international brand and get that exposure and that trust within the market. Yeah.
But do you feel that, particularly in the downturn that we're experiencing, can a brand actually bring value in a downturn, given the fees, the charges that are going to be put into that operation, which were not there before?
Well, I guess in a downturn, when there's no business, there's no fees. So most of the times these fees aren't fixed. So it's unlikely to impact, at least at this stage, when some of the properties are doing 3% of occupancy. But I think that it is an opportune time if you were to consider to upscale your property or to refurbish your property, to probably do it now when you already have the loss of business. I understand that there's obviously always the question whether there's funding available to do so. But I think there are some of these opportunities out there of property owners that are willing to spend some money on their assets when the business is quiet, and then to be able to come back into the market at a far better positioning and with a refurbishment.
But as you say, there's the question of the availability of finance, isn't there?
Yeah.
To actually meet brand standards. So, Erwan, your focus primarily is West Africa, I believe, although you're hunkered down there in Cape Town, as far away as you can get. But in your perception, are there many unbranded hotels that are worthwhile Radisson looking at to approach for management agreements? In terms of their ability to finance, in terms of their ability to accept the new structure, which is a management agreement, and so on and so forth?
I think there is a lot of opportunities of unbranded hotel to be potentially converted or under one of the Radisson flags.
In West Africa?
In West Africa, okay. Yes. Now, the challenge is, regardless if it's a new build or a conversion, most of the time funding will be required. So depending obviously on the level of the quality of the existing hotel, you're gonna have a requirement for funding that will be important, and this is why we are positioning ourselves with working on finding solution for the owner related to the funding by adding a team member specialized in the capital market. But what you need to understand is, just to give you a picture, is Radisson conversion is part of Radisson DNA expansion philosophy. The first property we added in Africa in 2000 was the Radisson Blue Cape Town waterfront, and it was a conversion from an existing property. And today this is our flagship property for Radisson in Africa. And we have multiple successful experience and track record of conversion of either existing office building, such as the Parking by Radisson in Cape Town foreshore, or the Radisson Blu Hotel and Residence in Cape Town, that are both office building that we converted into hotel, one in 2011 and the other one in 2017. We have also multiple hotels that we took over from branded hotel property and we converted into the Radisson Blu and the Parking by Radisson in Libreville, in Gabon, or the Radisson Blu Brazzaville, or the two Radisson Blu resorts in Mauritius. And more recently, we added 3 hotels out of the competition. We converted 3 hotels in Lagos from the Radisson Blu Lagos Ikeja and the Radisson Hotel Ikeja, and finally the Parking by Radisson Lagos in VI. So we have a good understanding of what it takes to make a conversion successful. And the success comes from the ability to phase out the renovation process and to phase out the budget, because in every single conversion, there is a budget that is needed and it's rarely cheap. There is renovation process in terms of product, but also in terms of potentially mechanical, electrical, plumbing, which are expensive, and finally IT, because you need to plug your system, and obviously the IT is needed. So this is a role of our technical team to make sure that we provide the tools for conversion to the owner, and of course the strengths of the technical team and the operational team to value engineer and make sure that what we are requesting is really necessary for the operation and has a return on investment for the owner.
Interesting, you mentioned the 3 Lagos properties there, because they were the second category of conversion I was going to ask you about, and they were change of brand, all 3 of them. Now, I understand you might want to tread a little carefully on what you say here when it comes to change of brand, but any thoughts on the movement of owners from a brand and taking the opportunity to jump ship at this time? Kim, are you seeing that at all?
No, we haven't seen that yet. Not at all. I mean, not that I'm aware of. Not in my region. I mean, from a core perspective, just in terms of conversions, you know, obviously we have a numerous amount of brands, and you know, we have some of our brands actually within every segment that is specifically geared towards conversions. You know, be that either styles or mature, or you know, your M Gallery. We also now have within the collection space, in the luxury space, a conversion brand, which is the House of Originals. So we really have some brands that are geared towards conversions, and that give a bit more flexibility. So when it comes to, yes, obviously we do have property improvement plans that we would have to agree with an owner prior to joining a brand. But I think we can, you know, we're fairly flexible. Obviously, certain things such as fire life safety and IT will be requirements in order to become part of the portfolio, in order to link into the distribution system. But when it comes to upgrading, I mean, we don't take any hotel. Obviously, it does need to fit within the brand. But when it comes to actually upgrading it, I think we can find flexible structures to meet those requirements. You know, these don't have to, particularly if you're looking at a current environment, these don't have to be met right from day one. We could possibly even consider, you know, for very short periods, to white label a property, to get it online, and to then comply with some of the brand standards, or phasing it in over a very specific timeline that gets pre-agreed before signing up with one of our brands. So I think there's a possibility.
Sorry, like the challenge there must be that you can't get your technical people to go and see those hotels, can you, to do the PIP assessment?
Yeah, that's right. But I guess, you know, you have to find ways to work around that. And, you know, if it's really a good product and something that you really want to sign up and you know, well advanced in terms of discussions, I guess you can hire someone, you know, in some of the key regions that we deal with or work with already on some of our projects to assist us in that.
Right. Okay. So using more local expertise.
Bouncing back on what you're saying, Trevor, we're using sometimes the local technical team because we cannot fly people out. So you need to be a bit innovative. So often we have hotels in the city that we are expanding, and thus we have technical team on the ground that we use instead of flying people from Cape Town, Dubai, or Brussels in this case. So you just need to be innovative and during this time and using the resources in a smarter way.
Sure. Okay. So there's a change in business model coming through there, which is to be welcome. But there's a greater local content coming into the professional team. And then the third area of conversions we're going to talk about was literally conversions, and that's repurposing buildings. That it seems to be getting clearer and clearer that it's the office market, the office real estate sector, that is going to have more permanent impact than say hospitality, which we all believe will come back. But the office market, with changes of behavior and the bosses accepting that the change of behavior is actually positive, in other words, the working from home, there are going to be more office blocks than usual available to repurpose. Any thoughts on the energy you have to put into that to make that worthwhile? Kim?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you have independent brands that are converted into hotels, I think it's far easier to do those conversions because some of the structures are already there, or some of them may not be, but the majority, you have back of house, or hopefully you have some back of house. Obviously, with building conversions, it's a bit more challenging. Either that, some of the places just don't fit right, and, it's more complicated to get them to be efficient in terms of design. So there is a lot more energy that has to go into that in order to meet brand standards and to not increase conversion costs. So it does cost more time and more energy, and definitely far more interaction between the technical teams.
Oh, and you mentioned you're already doing it. You got two office blocks in Nigeria? In South Africa.
Yeah, we've been doing it for a long time, and the reason is fairly simple: time to market. At the end of the day, we understand that building a hotel in Africa overall takes 4 years if all goes well. If all goes well.
Yeah.
So whatever opportunity is already in a good location is obviously, if you're taking an existing building, you're having the advantage of having normally a good location, not a secondary location, and a potential for core and shell that can save you 30% of the time, if not more. So it's already an accelerated process. So looking at core and shell or repurposing an existing building is a very similar process. So for us, it's an accelerated process that we look at with, in fact, a focus. For us, it's part of our conversion strategy.
Well, that kind of the whole point of the discussion in a way, isn't it? That how do you get your brands onto operating hotels faster? Possibly to replace some of those hotels that will never reopen. Let's face it, there will be hotels that will never reopen again. Never's a long time, but I said it. And greenfield projects. I mean, in Nigeria, I once worked out that the average was 7 years from breaking ground. Just crazy. Everybody says they'll do it sooner, but nobody ever does. I've got a question, and please do put more questions up. I've got a question coming up on the chat here from Salim Jamahamid. And he says, I'll read it out, with the expectation that the leisure market will recover faster, and there's clear evidence that is actually happening, for example, in Tanzania. Will brands change their focus from purely city to venture into leisure? Question mark.
we're already focusing on the leisure market. Originally, the has been focused on the business high.
You were saying.
Because I also want to leave a bit of time to Kim to express herself on this topic. But we have a clear result strategy for Africa, but Africa is mainly a business market, as you all know, and there is a few resort area, whether it's safari or beach resort, across East Africa, on the West African part, Cape Verde, and mainly in Indian Ocean with, we all know the Seychelles, the Mauritius, Réunion, and Madagascar. So we have a clear strategy, but obviously it represents a lower percentage in terms of expansion plan than the business hotel because purely of the market demand. Thank you.
Okay.
I think, a lot of the, as Erwan was alluding to, if you look at safaris, some of these leisure destinations, they're very largely driven by international business. And I think particularly in some of these African destinations, be that South Africa or Kenya, you are requiring for the borders to be open. And I think, we're definitely not at the moment. So, yeah, when you're talking about local leisure, yeah, there will be a drive in local leisure because people want to get out. But as we alluded, I think we're still very much focused on business markets. And, I think that our eco-mid-scale brand will still drive that business in the cities. So it'll be our luxury brand, very particular destinations, just mentioned Kenya, but also Mauritius, where we would focus on more of the leisure market. Overall in Africa, it's still very driven by the business and the corporate market.
Okay, so we've been told we've got only a couple of minutes left. So let's use that time to dust off the fragments of your broken crystal ball. And where do you see you being at the end of 2020? Do you think you will have achieved as many deals as you did last year? I forget the numbers, they're on the slide, which I was unable to show. You know what your numbers were for signing in 2019. Are you going to be there at the end of 2020, or are you going to be down?
It's difficult to say.
Yeah, I know it's difficult to say.
We signed about 5,000 rooms in 2019. Obviously, with 3 very large Rixos properties in Egypt. Will we sign those again? I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was a Rixos hotel with 1,600 rooms.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I think that for now we're quite hopeful that we'll still have a decent year considering where we are with 2020. So we may not sign exactly the same numbers, so it will be down. But we're not thinking that we're not going to sign anything. I think we have some really good projects in the pipeline that have been maturing for a good few years. So we're very hopeful that we'll find some good projects here.
Thanks. And Erwan, a slightly different question from you. Owner sentiment. Clearly, sentiment is down at the moment, despite the number of inquiries, despite the fact you signed something. Owner sentiment must be down. How long before you're back at whatever level owner sentiment was last year?
This is a crystal ball question.
Yes.
The owner sentiment is down. I think overall the sentiment for business is down as a whole, and thus communication between us, operation, development, and the owner have been really critical in order to I would say set the expectations, even though we don't truly know how long it's going to take to bounce back. As I said earlier, we are hoping that it's going to bounce back to 2019 numbers in the next 2 years. But 2 years can be quite a long time. So,
who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
So,
okay, Kim, Erwan, thank you for being so frank. Thank you for answering the questions. Thank you for being patient for me. on the technology, but we didn't need slides, did we? I do have the slides. The organizers will have the slides and can share them, or those of you who know me, send me an email and I'll share them. The instruction now is to say thank you very much to Kim. Thank you very much to